Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced in Moscow on Wednesday that the country has extended its ban on petrol exports until January 2027. Diesel exports will also remain restricted through August to secure domestic supplies and support priority consumers such as farmers. Novak admitted distribution problems persist, with some petrol stations closed or operating on limited supply, but said regional operators and oil companies are working to replenish stocks. The measures follow Ukrainian attacks on Russian refineries, reported restrictions lifted in 13 regions. Officials say the market has partially stabilized, though challenges remain. Israeli and Lebanese delegations left the U.S. Embassy in Rome on Wednesday after a second day of U.S.-mediated talks aimed at easing tensions along their shared border. Police escorted convoys as the delegations departed under heavy security. The negotiations built on a framework agreement reached in June, which proposes phased Israeli troop withdrawals from southern Lebanon, deployment of the Lebanese armed groups from pilot zones. U.S. officials said the Rome talks made further progress toward implementation. Both governments have expressed support for continuing dialogue, though Hezbollah has rejected the framework outright. The meetings form part of Washington's broader effort to reduce hostilities and improve security along the Israel-Lebanon frontier. Arab foreign ministers and representatives of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation met in Oman on Wednesday to discuss Jerusalem and its holy sites, warning of what they called escalating Israeli violations. Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi described Jerusalem as an occupied city, accusing Israel of settlement expansion, land confiscation, and restrictions on worship. He cautioned that such policies risk igniting a religious conflict with global repercussions. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati voiced support for President Trump's peace plan, stressing the need for regional and international pressure to implement it. Palestinian Foreign Minister Vasily Nebenzya urged practical measures focusing on documenting violations, strengthening resilience, and intensifying international support. A final communique called for urgent global action as Israeli forces expanded operations in refugee camps across the West Bank. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi says Tehran is close to finalizing an agreement with Oman on new arrangements for the Strait of Hormuz, though warned the deal would not mean the waterway is fully reopening. He outlined plans for new transit routes passing through both Iranian and Omani waters, replacing previous northern and southern corridors. Garibabadi stressed that Washington is not part of the talks, though Iran has received messages from the US. The minister added that a 60-day phase without fees depends on whether the strait is opened, with final decisions left to senior Iranian officials. His comments came after President Trump claimed negotiations were moving along very nicely despite Tehran's denial of direct talks with Washington. Russia's UN envoy Vasily Nebenzya has accused former colonial powers of intensifying Africa's terrorist threat by using Ukrainian proxies to supply extremist groups with advanced technology. Speaking at a UN Security Council meeting on Wednesday, Nebenzya said Sahel states face mounting insecurity due to criminal collusion between Ukraine, France, and terrorist groups. He argued Western sponsors exploit Ukraine to wage proxy wars abroad, including in Africa. France has reduced its military presence in the Sahel after criticism from local governments, while Paris blames Moscow for destabilizing the region. Nebenzya warned that extremist groups are increasingly using drones, AI, and digital currencies, calling for coordinated international action. He said counter-terrorism efforts are undermined by double standards and hidden agendas. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held a phone call with Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani on August 4. The two officials reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening relations across trade, investments, culture, and humanitarian cooperation while maintaining regular trust-based political dialogue. They also exchanged views on Middle East development, focusing on escalating tensions in the Persian Gulf. Both sides stressed the need for an immediate cessation of hostilities and a return to negotiations guided by the June 17 Islamabad Memorandum. The conversation underscored Russia and Qatar's shared interest in deepening bilateral ties while supporting regional stability. Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan has urged greater investment in African-owned infrastructure as leaders, financiers, and investors gathered in Dar es Salaam on Wednesday for the Africa 50 General Shareholders Meeting and the Infra for Africa Forum. The two-day summit, themed A Decade of Impact from Vision to Delivery, brings together African heads of state, ministers, development finance institutions, and private sector leaders to mobilize capital for transport, energy, digital, and logistics projects across Africa. Hassan told delegates that roads, ports, railways, and digital networks must drive growth and resilience, stressing Africa's determination to finance and own its future. She highlighted Tanzania's Development Vision 2050, which prioritizes expanding strategic infrastructure to support long-term economic growth. Russia has sharply increased its agricultural exports to Africa, with shipments rising 35% in value during the first half of 2026 compared to last year. According to AgroExpert, exports reached about $2.9 billion to more than 40 African countries, with volumes up 40%. Wheat dominated, with 10.2 million tons supplied alongside barley, soybean, oil, sunflower seed meal, and beet pulp. Egypt remained the top buyer, accounting for 44% of exports, while Kenya surged to third place, increasing purchases nearly tenfold. Officials say the expansion highlights Africa's growing role in Russia's food trade partnerships, with new export routes and cooperation expected to drive further growth in agricultural exchanges. African art, music, and craftsmanship filled the Shandong Museum in Jinan on Tuesday as the 2026 Shandong-Africa Cultural Carnival opened under the theme Mountains and Seas in Harmony, Shared Beauty. Footage showed visitors exploring ceramics, carvings, masks, costumes, and photography, while drummers performed at the bustling Shandong-Africa Treasure Bazaar. The bazaar features 25 stores with African handicrafts and Shandong products, running for 3 days, while the main exhibition will remain open for 20 days. Visitors praised the event for the deepening China-Africa friendship, with exhibits ranging from clay sculptures to geological specimens. Hosted by the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries and the Shandong provincial government, the carnival forms part of the 2026 China-Africa Year of People-to-People Exchanges. Serbia has deployed helicopters to fight a massive wildfire sweeping through the Deliblatska-Peščara Nature Reserve in Vojvodina. Flames have already consumed more than 300 hectares, with thick smoke rising over one of Europe's largest continental sand terrains. Footage Wednesday showed crews dumping water from the air as over 80 firefighters and volunteers worked to contain the blaze. Authorities say the fire erupted near the site of another major blaze extinguished just 2 weeks ago. Emergency Chief Luka Kozik warned soaring temperatures are heightening wildfire risks, urging residents not to light fires outdoors after a man died in a separate incident near Požarevac. The crisis comes amid a severe wildfire season across Central and Southern Europe, where prolonged heat and drought have fueled blazes and disrupted river traffic along the Danube.